transition without commission. That's us. That's David. That is David. Everyone say David on 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. David. Yes, not Michael. When he asks you for money and says that his name is Michael, that is a lie. When he insults you, that is David. All right? So don't trust him. He's a lawyer. Okay. There's another member of our team, Lubisa. She's not here. She's our employment law lawyer. And we three combined with another lawyer coming in like a few...
April.
Yeah, just next month. We like having lawyers around. Okay, so our prescription for all of your issues are get educated, get protected, and make the most money while saving the most money at the same time. Okay, so how are we going to do that? First website. We have a bunch of websites. You probably want to jot them down or take a look on your phones if you get the chance. Dentistlawyers.ca. This is our main law firm website. David, you want to give them a brief overview of what's on this website?
So it's a one-stop shop for any questions you might have that you might want to ask of a lawyer. We've got maybe 400 blogs we've written on there, articles we've written on there, videos from seminars we presented, social activities that are upcoming that we do with our dentists. Everything you need is going to be here on the website.
Yeah, we're actually recording this presentation for the benefit of other dentists who hop online, and they'll be able to watch it. What else do we have? We have our ebook. So each one of you should have received a copy of the ebook yesterday. 274 pages and growing. If you have problems sleeping at night, you open up that sucker, it'll put you out in no time. Right?
When did we get this?
If you didn't receive it, talk to me. I emailed most people, I believe, yesterday. Okay? And you can also go on the website to download it for free. Okay? Our collective knowledge in that ebook. David, what else we got?
As I said, Michael's a very prolific writer, writes for Ontario Dentist, Oral Health Office. All the articles Michael's written get reproduced on the website. So issues such as tips and traps with doing your will, issues with hiring associates, etc.
Right. Okay, what about the trips that we take? I like to joke and say if I don't go on these dental destination seminars, cruises, resorts, my wife will leave me. Partially true. David, David just came back from Hawaii. I just came back from Turks. Hanging out with dentists is fun. We get to write it off, and you guys should come with us.
Important.
Okay, Dentist Legal Forms. Second website. What's this one all about, David?
So what we did is we found a way to leverage technology for dentists and give you at a third or less of the price of what you pay to a lawyer to draft something for you by scratch. So we took our collective knowledge, automated it, and you can get certain documents such as a will or a power of attorney, or if you're looking to purchase a practice, a letter of intent, all through the website and doing it from the comfort of your own home.
So it's like an online wizard, like TurboTax, and at the end you can generate some documents, some legal documents. We've got some samples over here. I'll just get David to distribute my wills. These are my wills, unsigned. Don't sign them. Don't write your name in there. It has no legal effect. You can inherit my debts if you want. But I have a professional corporation, and so therefore to save on estate taxes, I will have a corporate will and a non-corporate will, and you can actually use our software to do that. And those are my wills, which I used. And that's what they look like. Okay, and all of our online legal forms come with lawyer review, so if you think you screwed up, you can just have us review it and make sure. Question?
Can a single will address both corporate and personal issues?
It can, but it's not recommended. The whole purpose of having two wills is to save estate administration taxes, so you want to have two wills instead of just the one. Okay? Last website. David, what's this one all about?
So we created the equivalent of the multiple listing service for dental practices. This is a place where we can list and market online your dental practice when you're ready to sell.
Right, so we actually have listings from this. This was actually taken today. We put a new listing up, a Toronto practice. Matt did the appraisal for it, and we're going to start to market it so that the seller can sell. And it kind of looks like this. Once you've clicked in, it's all done very confidentially, very discreetly. So anyone can go on the website, but they can't find out your name, your address. They can't request an appraisal. They can't do anything until they create an account. We verify that it's a dentist. Okay. They sign a confidentiality agreement with us. Then we give them a copy of the appraisal, and they can actually sign into their account here and book an appointment during an open house to come and see the practice. Okay, so we're leveraging technology to get as many prospective purchasers out there to come and see your practice. Because the benefit for you guys is you get a bidding war. Okay, selling a dental practice. Here's what we're here to learn, right? the process. Hire your legal team. Step number 1, go talk to Matt, get an appraisal. Start marketing your practice online, offline. Negotiate the letter of intent. The purchaser does their due diligence. They arrange for financing. There's some formal agreements. There's a closing. And then there's post-closing, time to celebrate. Come with us to Jamaica. Okay, let's talk about the process. Hire your legal team. So the thing is, we can help you prepare in advance, sometimes years in advance of selling. If you're thinking about selling 5 years from now, you'll want to talk to us first because there may be lease issues we have to deal with, incorporation issues, employee issues. And we're going to talk about those 3 areas and how they can affect the ultimate purchase price. Okay? So hire your legal team. By the way, I consider myself Elliot Ness. David is not here. I don't see him. Does anybody see David? I don't see him. Matt, do you see him? No.
Was he the guy in the back?
He's the guy over here? Yeah. I think that's a woman. All right, let's go. Okay, second thing. Talk to Matt, get an appraisal. Typically, the banks financing the purchaser will want to see an appraisal, okay? And you've got a copy of an appraisal that's going around. No commissions. David, what's the idea here?
You've worked hard, you've built up the value of your practice, you've earned the money, you keep the money.
So typically, real estate salespeople will charge how much in commissions?
About 10%?
10%.
Of the sale price.
Of the sale price. That's a lot of money. If you've got $1 million practice, it's $100,000. They also charge HST. Then you have to pay a lawyer. Then you have to pay HST on the lawyer's fees. It's a lot of money. So what we've decided to do is essentially take on the role of the real estate salesperson, help you find and connect with an ideal buyer, and not charge commissions. We only represent the sellers, and we only charge legal fees to represent the seller. Okay?
So you essentially get everything in an all-in-one shop, and you save a ton of money by not paying any commissions.
Oh yeah, huge. People will ask, well, how much am I going to save by using you guys? We typically say it depends because we're only doing legal work and some marketing, and it's based on block fees. We have a menu system, and so it's X amount for this, X amount for Y. We don't charge hourly because our dentists want cost certainty up front. But I'll tell you this, based on historically having done this, the dentists save at least 50%, if not more, of what they would have traditionally paid a real estate salesperson and a lawyer combined, because we're taking on the dual role. So 50% savings, what do you do with it? You upgrade your house. You buy a new car. By the way, how many of you guys have heard about this company, this Tesla car company? Yeah? What have you heard about it, Sam?
Well, it's a new trend in how to power the engines. And it's
100% electric?
Electric, 100%.
This new version, how many horsepower does it have?
I know it can go at
Faster than a Lamborghini.
Faster than the speed of light.
Yeah, it's got
I wouldn't try it.
So the newest version of this has 2 motors, 691 horsepower, instantaneous torque because it's a pure electric car, and you can watch it on YouTube. It will in drag races beat Ferraris, Lamborghinis, any kind of cars that are supposed to go really fast. It just goes. And it has, what's the mode called that you put it in to go really crazy?
Oh, it actually has a switch you can throw electronically to go from regular mode to insane mode.
Yes.
So
to be on the ultra.
now, if you want to make good use,
Self-drive as well.
It's self-drive. It will have self-drive in the next 3 months, believe it or not.
for some people, this is a very good use of the commissions that they're saving.
Yeah, it's 100. It starts at around 100,000. You can soup it up to about 140, but the money you save, get yourself one of these.
So if you're not going to buy a Tesla, maybe what else are you going to do? With your-
Cocoa Point Beach in Barbuda.
Seawater.
Yeah. Okay, so Paul, do you know about Cocoa Point Lodge in Barbuda? Have you heard about this place?
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh, yes.
Have you been?
No.
Okay, you probably haven't heard of Barbuda. You've heard of Bermuda,
Yeah.
but you've heard of Antigua. Antigua is actually Antigua and Barbuda. It's a series of islands. This place it requires 2 flights to get there, about 15 hours. Pink sand. It's about 15 to 20 grand a week to stay there at a gorgeous all-inclusive. If you read my will, and some of you are, it actually says there for my wife to scatter my ashes here. Okay, so she gets a party when I'm gone.
If you're looking to add something to your bucket list, here's a perfect example of something you can add to your bucket list.
Yes, Cocoa Point Beach Lodge, Barbuda. Okay, and you've got extra money, you've got extra time on your hand because you're not paying 10% commissions. Come with David and I to volunteer in Jamaica. It's subsidized workation. Sandals donates the rooms for free. You get to stay there for 10 days. You work for 5. It's fun times, right? We'll get into that actually a little bit later, right?
Right.
Okay. Next step, marketing the practice. How do we market the practice? Well, online, we've already talked about Dental Place, right? And Dental Place, it's growing. It has a list of subscribers that continue to grow. And we also have our main website. Our main website, which we developed about 5 years ago, gets about 5,000 unique visitors a month and growing. We blog on there every week, 4 or 5 articles, and it has an e-blast subscription list of a few hundred people, primarily dentists and younger dentists who want to stay in the know with what's happening legally and what's available on the market. So that's our online marketing. That's the e-blast that goes out. So that's an example of a practice for sale in Markham, Ontario. I think it sold for about 132% of appraised, and that was one way that we got the word out, right? And the second way we market is offline, leveraging our network. So today, for example, I think I emailed about 100 professionals who service dentists, bankers, accountants, other lawyers, and said, hey, I've got this practice for sale. Do you know anyone who's looking to buy? So that's another way that we get the word out.
I would just say, we work on all these different files with all these different dentists, and so we meet all the other industry people all the time. We're engaged with the other industry people all the time. It could be equipment resellers, it could be the accountants, as Michael said, the bankers, etc. So our network is very large.
And we continue to grow it. The other thing is we actually have young dentist clients who have been looking, some of them for 2 years, to buy a practice, desperate to buy. Matt knows a lot of dentists in the same boat because they come to him saying, I'm so frustrated, I can't buy anything, so I always get outbid, I have to start something. And they come to him for marketing analysis on the site. Okay, so we have clients and we have a big network that we depend on. Okay, we conduct the open houses. Not the best picture of David and I. I mean, I'm not bad, but David, I don't know. We do the open houses, right? Just like a real estate salesperson does. 15-minute intervals, dentists come in, we show them around, we'll maybe bring an equipment person like Karen from K Dental to talk to them about the equipment so that they're familiar with it, with what's going on. I mean, Matt mentioned his appraisals give more information than the norm because we want to have a good fit and we want the purchasers to identify opportunities. Once the marketing is done and all the open houses are done, we actually streamline the process of getting offers in the door. So what we do is we create a standard offer based on what the seller wants, the terms that they're comfortable selling, and we present it to all the buyers. So we don't want the buyers to go try to come up with their own offer and get it all wrong and waste time and money. We don't want them to go to Joe Schmo lawyer. We say, here's the offer. I'm giving it to you in a Word document. All you need to do is put your name, the purchase price, and the closing date. Okay, if you want to change anything else, it's fine. Just be warned, it's a seller's market, and the terms should be favorable for the seller if you expect them to accept your bid, right? So we've streamlined that process. What do practices sell for? This is interesting. We took a look at 100 dental practices that we've been involved in over the past 5 years in Ontario. Okay, and we plotted them on this little graph here to get a sense of, well, are they selling for more than appraised, less than appraised, and why? And so we've got an appraised line. I know it may be difficult for those in the back to see. Can you see, Mona? Okay, so you've got an appraised line, a white line, that's what they've been appraised for, and a red line, what they sell for. Okay, so you can see some of them appraised for much higher than what they sell for. So they sell for lower. And yet, in some instances, you'll see they sell for a little higher, sell for higher than what they're appraised for. So my question is, why? Why are these practices selling for less, and why are they selling for more? Do you guys have any ideas? Yeah? Bob, what do you think?
I think it's potential versus actual.
So if they look at Matt's appraisal and it says, hygiene, they don't have a good hygiene recall program, or their patient attrition is huge, they're going to say, I'm a pretty smart dentist, good business acumen, I could probably take advantage of that. So this is an undervalued practice. It's valued at $500,000. I'm going to pay $700 because I know I can get it. The billing's up, right? I know I'm going to bid more now, get it, and I'm going to take advantage of those opportunities. Right. Okay, what else? Why would a buyer pay more for a practice?
The location.
Location. It's key.
Avoid the bidding war.
A bidding war, yeah. But what generates the bidding war? Why would buyers be interested in some practices? Location is key. Yep, Karen?
Okay, so I'm just a rep, and this is a learning experience for me too. So my perspective would be, number of patients, and but you
Mhm.
see how many people are in a waiting room. You see, you know, what the productivity is in terms of in and out. To me, that's value.
How much from those charts are active patient? How much they were here for the last year? How much was recall and how much was the treatment?
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
We were involved in a practice that was selling, and the seller thought an active patient is someone who's been there for the past 24 months. And the buyer thought it's someone who's been there for the past 12 months. Guess what? Nobody's wrong. It's just over time it's shifted from 24 months to 12. 12 is like becoming more of a standard. But nobody was trying to take advantage of the other, and what we had to do was kind of go in between and say this is the number of active patients, okay?
But also just a consistent practice.
Mhm.
Not just that, you know, you have loyal patients coming back again and again. That's a great sign. And you can see that within the charts, right? So I think that's a great sign. for
So
any practice.
charts,
Anything
that's the
else?
goodwill. That's what people are primarily paying for. Yes.
There's one more thing too, when you see that there's a lot of work to be done on patients that needs to be done and it's not done.
Along those lines, so in case no one heard that, if there's a lot of maybe
Outstanding treatment.
if there's outstanding treatment or cases that haven't been accepted, there could be value there. There could also be value, think about this, if the dentist is referring out a lot of the surgeries.
This is the main,
If they're
one of the major
Mhm.
factors.
So a dentist may find greater value in a practice if the dentist had been referring out, and we've seen practice just recently where a dentist was slowing down and not taking on those surgeries and was referring out about $100,000 worth of work. If you have a younger dentist who's interested in the practice and is confident and comfortable in their skill set, they'll really like that practice and they'll keep that work in-house.
So we talked about some of the reasons dental practices sell for more than appraised. Why would they sell for less?
Michael, am I allowed to answer?
Yeah, go for it.
What about if you have a bad lease?
You know, there's $1 million practice in there that sold for $540,000 to one of our clients because of a bad lease.
Wow.
Demolition clause. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
The landlord says, I'm going to demolish this
We're building
place.
a plaza here.
Building a plaza, you're out.
Yeah.
The banks won't finance the deal for the purchaser because they want to amortize that loan over 10 years. If the purchaser pays the seller $1 million and then they're kicked out, the purchaser's kicked out after a year, that's no good.
There's no value in the practice and there's no security for the bank. So that's one of the main reasons a practice can go for
Right.
less.
What else? What about employees?
Yeah.
Are they problematic in terms of a sale? Kara, what do you think?
Yeah, your employee contracts.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that more, but I'm just going to wrap up this slide like this. Practices that are well run, good hygiene production, large patient base, good location, good lease, staff on contract, tend to sell for more. Okay, practices that tend to sell for less, no staff contracts, bad lease, poor location, and also they are forced sales. So a forced sale is something whereby the seller has to sell in a rush because they're getting divorced. It's a partnership dispute. They have to leave the country, or they've got some medical condition. So if they're forced to sell, they tend to sell for less. Okay? So those are what we call forced sales distress practices. Yeah. Okay, purchasers.
Thank you.
After the letter of intent has been agreed upon and a purchase price has been determined, and by the way, it's a seller's market. Do you guys know why it's a seller's market right now? There's too many buyers, not enough sellers. The banks are financing, and there's bidding wars left, right, and center. And I'm not talking about the big practices. I'm talking about even small part-time practices are selling for 125, 130%. Okay, something with like 300,000-400,000 in billings, maybe 400 or 500 patients. They're still selling if they've got a good location, good lease, relatively new staff. They'll sell. It's a seller's market. It wasn't the same case in the 90s, where practices were being sold for about 75 cents on the dollar, and the prices have been creeping up, especially in the concentrated urban areas. Okay, purchasers' due diligence. What kind of things do you think the purchaser is going to ask you, the seller, for as they conduct their due diligence, which is about a few weeks after the initial letter of intent is signed? What are they going to ask for? What are they going to want to do? Yep, chart audit. Good, Mona. Yep.
Equipment.
Yep.
For those of you that didn't hear equipment, they're going to want to look at.
So they're going to want somebody like Karen there telling them about the equipment. Does it work? Does it need to be upgraded? Things like that. What else?
The lease.
The lease, for sure. Yeah. Because that can affect your purchase price significantly. What else? What else did we talk about?
Employees.
Employees, are they on contract? Because that can significantly affect the purchase price as well. What else? They're going to ask for your financial statements, maybe some x-ray floor plans that were approved 20 years ago by the Ministry of Health. They're going to want to see tax returns. Basically, you're going to have to expose yourself to some degree to give them comfort in terms of what they're buying, okay? Anything else to add, David, about due diligence?
They'll look at corporate records. They'll want to maybe look at your accounting software or your practice management software. So just be prepared that someone's going to be investing in your business. They're going to want to see everything they can.
Yeah, I mean, David and I, we go to open houses, and then after that, we spend a lot of time at the office, just babysitting the office while they're conducting their due diligence, and it takes hours. They're doing chart counts for hours, right? Depending on how big the practice is. Okay, by the way, can you guys all read this? It says, now remember, when he comes in, everybody jump out and yell, "You're fired!" Okay? So David's going to explain the two ways to look at terminating an employee, and it's really important in the context of a sale, because employees automatically have this liability that they dump on you, the employer. And the question becomes, are you going to get rid of that liability before the sale? Are you going to somehow transfer it fully to the purchaser? Or are you going to split it between yourself and the purchaser? Okay, so there's a lot of options there, and it's really important because it will affect the purchase price.
Really, there's two ways to look at it. There's minimum standards in Ontario that if you wish to sever the employment relationship or terminate a staff member, you have to give them, based on government legislation, just for rough numbers, 1 week for every year to a maximum of 8 weeks. At the same time, cases have gone to court and judges have said, though the legislation is minimum standards, we're going to suggest people need or require more time. And they've made a golden rule, which they don't call the golden rule, but it's a roughly 1 month for every year to approximately 2 years. So the potential liability in terminating a staff member could be as low as 8 weeks if they've been there for 8 years. And if you take the same 8-year person, could be 8 months' salary. So there's a lot of money in there that you have to account for. And if you don't have, for example, a contract that limits the amount that you would pay on termination, you're creating a liability for yourself or for the purchaser that if you want to terminate, it could cost you tens, 20s, 30s, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, our client was purchasing a practice. There was no contract, long-term staff, like 20 plus years, and the liability that they wanted the purchaser to absorb, our client, was in the range of $300,000 if the purchaser took over and started to make changes and terminate people. Purchaser said, no, I'm not doing this deal unless I get rid of some of this liability. So they split it. So $150,000 came off that $1 million purchase price, just like that, to get the deal done. And any smart purchaser with a smart lawyer would have asked for the same amount. Yes, Mona?
If the staff is good, like they're really good
Yes.
people, they're
So you're sellers and you're thinking, that would be the dumbest thing for them to do, to come in and start firing people. Yeah, I overpay them and they've been with me for 30 years. They're like family. And they know everybody. That would be so stupid, right? But there's still that liability. And it still haunts you guys because you have to deal with it. And luckily, it's a seller's market. So you can almost dictate to the purchasers, hey guys, sorry, it's a seller's market. If you're not going to absorb that liability, the next guy is. Right? I can pick 1 of 10 of you. But in some situations, the sellers don't have that option, and they have to either reduce the purchase price or absorb some of the risk. So there's a couple of options here. So option number 1 is the seller says, I'm not doing anything about it. Purchaser's going to accept all the liability. It's a seller's market. I've got a great practice. They'd be dumb. Okay, that's an option. If they get away with it, great. Another option is the seller says to the buyer, listen, if you terminate anybody afterwards, let's say for the first 3 months, I'll split the termination costs with you. Okay, so that's an option number 2. They're sharing the risk. It's a risk on the seller because they don't think that the buyer's actually going to terminate anybody. Right? They'd be dumb to do it. So it's one way of getting the deal done. Another way is the sellers are smart. They want to avoid this whole conversation. They don't want any risk. They don't want to have to pay. And And so what they do beforehand is they give something called notice to the employees in advance, prior to the deal closing. Now, a lot of dentists get confused about this idea of giving notice. How much notice? So what happens is this. David and I go into a dental practice. We sit down with the staff, and we basically say, listen, guys, you've been working here. The dentist loves you. The dentist is going through a transition. He's doing his wills. She's getting incorporated. She's putting all staff on contracts to make this practice the best that it's going to be when it's time to sell. Okay? Part of that process is you're going to get this paper. It's going to essentially say you're being put on notice. Okay? It's called working notice. You're not being terminated. Nothing changes. Everything stays the same. But for this period of time, 8 weeks, 8 months, depending on how long they've been there, you're notified that at the end of that period, I'm going to be presenting you with some new employment contracts for you to sign. Okay? So the first question you guys are going to probably ask me is, what if they refuse to sign that notice? Okay, well, they got the notice anyways. That's all that counts, right? What if they go to an employment law lawyer and complain? The employment law lawyer is going to say, well, actually, they did the right thing. They came in, they gave you this notice. They didn't try to change the employment relationship, right? Because that would have been bad. All they did is put you on notice. They're following the law as they should be. Okay, now, the notice period expires. Those 8 weeks go by. Now what? Now we present employment contracts to these new employees, right? We got rid of the liability. And then you guys are going to say, well, Mike, what if she doesn't want to sign? There's a couple of options. Option number one is you can let her go if you don't want her to stay on. She's a new employee. She doesn't want to sign. Okay. Option number two is negotiate with her until you get something signed in writing by both of you. Okay. Option number three is she signs. And this is the important part. If she signs, if she doesn't sign, it doesn't matter. She's essentially a new employee, and all that past liability, that past notice that someone would have to pay is gone. Okay? Now, importantly, in the new contracts that you present to them, it has to say this. If I ever want to terminate you, I'm going to give you what you're entitled to under the Employment Standards Act, the basic bare bones 1 week per every year you've been there. And you're waiving your right to that common law, judge-made law rule of 1 month for every year you've been there. If they sign that, fantastic. Liability is gone from you, from any purchaser looking at those contracts. That's the ideal scenario. But you have to have that explicit language in there, as per Ontario courts have said. Okay, so really, really interesting. I know it's a little tough to digest how notice works, but we've seen lots of money come off purchase prices because contracts haven't been implemented properly.